Hello and good evening from me, Lee Anthony Davis, recording live from my YouTube channel. Tonight it's the Hammer Horror Quiz featuring The Taste the Blood of Dracula, a real classic from the 1970s starring Christopher Lee. But before we get into all that, is my usual shout outs and announcements. Starting with one of my members who will be celebrating their birthday this Sunday. So congratulations to Jim Gordon from my members and myself. Happy birthday, Jim. Talking about members, someone I know so well has not only joined two of my groups, but has agreed to become an admin in one and a moderator in another. So congratulations to you, Daniel Connolleach. Well done, mate. Right, before we start the quiz, yes, you guessed it, it's time for me. Yeah, it's the musical interlude time, you know what I mean. It gives you that chance to rush out the room quick, you know. Some people have said it's a bit of it's like when you hear me sing, it's a bit like a strangulated hernia with an nauseating scratch, the blackboard, you know, when you scratch it as well. It's torture to your ears, but I've got to do it, so it gives you the incentive to go and get a pen and paper. You know what I mean? Okay then. So what's the song I'm gonna kill today? Oh yeah, of course, an old classic from the 80s. You probably know it. Only You, Yazoo. Here we go. So go and get that pen quickly, because I'm about to sing. Here we go now. Looking from a window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me? Came back only yesterday. I'm moving farther away. Want you near me? All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day, and all I ever knew, only you. Ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba 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 ba, ba ba la la la. You enjoyed that? Yeah, I was going to keep it short. So, you got that out of the way. Have you got your pen and paper? We can begin. So, let's start off. Remember, you need your pen and paper for obvious reasons, because I'm going to be reading out the answers when I read the questions again. So, that is the reason why the pen and paper, or whatever you had, if you've got a pen, if you've got a pencil, whatever, it's more needed now, because I'm only doing one video. I decided to do it all in one instead of doing two parts to it, you know. So because there's so much going on what I'm doing, I've got no time to make a second video. So I thought it'd be better for you, better for me. Uh, so anyway, I have to say this: the one that I did with the Daleks is really getting good views. You know, it's fantastic. And also that show I did with Mr. Hyde on the horror thing, unbelievably, as would you believe it, 150 views, over 150 views. If it reaches 200, I've promised to put it on my horror group. And I'll give you my word on that. You can put it in the bank, even though the bank will kick it out. But yeah, I definitely see that one hitting 200 very shortly. Right, so enough about me. It's all about you. It's all about having fun. It's all about getting that pen and paper and get ready to play the quiz. It's the Hammer Horror Quiz with your host, Lee Anthony Davis. And the feature is Taste the Blood of Dracula. Are you ready? Shall I begin? Right, question one. Who directed the film? I repeat, who directed the film? Was it A. Anthony Hines? Was it B. Anthony Nelson Keys? Or was it C. John Sadby? Sadie? Sasti? Sorry, John. So I'll repeat that one again. Was it C. John Sasti? Sasti. Okay. Right, moving on quickly, swiftly. Question two. When this film went out on release, how many times had Christopher Lee played Dracula? I repeat that again. When this film went out on release, how many times did Christopher Lee play Dracula? In other words, up to this point, including this film, how many times did he play the vampire, the famous vampire? Right, here's your three choices. Is it A, 3 times? Was it B, 4 times? Or was it C, 5 times? Question 3. Which actor or actress in this film had appeared with Christopher Lee in the last Hammer Dracula film? They did. Was it A, John Carlson? Was it B, Isla Blair? Or was it C, Michael Ripper? Right, question 4. Actually, I'm bringing in a 2-part one early this time. So here we go then. This is the first part of question 4. Question 4A. What was the date that this film was released in the United Kingdom? What was the date that this film was released in the United Kingdom? Was it that A, the 5th of May 1970? Was it B, the 7th of May 1970? Or was it C, the 9th of May 1970? Right, moving on to question 4, the second part of 4. Question 4B, here we go. What was the running time of the film? I repeat, what was the running time of the film? Here's your possible 3 answers. Was it A, 90 minutes? Was it B, 91 minutes? Or was it C, 92 minutes? Right, so give yourself double points for these 2-parters, because as it's virtually one part, it's worth 2 points each. So that's about 4, don't it, in my estimation? Right, question 5. Which actor played William Hargood, the character in this film, and went on to appear as a regular with Roger Moore in James Bond? He played one of the bosses of James, I think it was an admiral or whatever. But you'll know what I mean when I mention his name. Was it A, Desmond Llewellyn? Was it B, Bernard Lee? Or was it C, Jeffrey Keane? But don't worry, I will be reading the question out again. Right, here we go. Question 6. Which famous comedian played the businessman Weller? Which famous comedian played the businessman Weller? Was it A, Eric Sykes? Was it B, Roy Kinnear? Or was it C, Ronnie Barker? Right, moving on to question 7. At the beginning, Weller was running through the woods and tripped over and fell. What did he discover? I repeat that again. At the beginning, Weller was running through the woods and tripped over and fell. When he sort of recovered and he looked down, because he obviously rolled down this sort of woods and it was on a slope, he saw something that terrified him. So what was that? And I'll give you a hint here with one of these possible 3 answers. Was it A, he finds Dracula's belongings in a trunk? B, he watches Dracula die? Or C, he finds Dracula's castle? Okay, we're moving on to question 8. Here we go. Who was the character played by Ralph Bates? Who was all right, yeah. What was the name of the character played by... Sorry about that. This is my writing for me. You'll have to forgive me. I'll repeat that question. I'll just put the what in, if you don't mind. It wasn't who. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense this way. Right, I've just done it, so I've rewritten it so you understand. What was the character's name played by Ralph Bates, who was disowned by his family for practicing the black arts? I'll repeat that one again, shall I? What was the name of the character played by Ralph Bates, who was disowned by his family for practicing the black arts? Was it A, Lord Crowley? Was it B, Lord Marley? Or was it C, Lord Courtly? Right, question 9. How was Dracula resurrected? In other words, how did he come into being in this film? I'll repeat that again. How was Dracula resurrected? Was it A? It was a ceremony that the three gentlemen, and Courtney and young Courtney, I'll repeat that again. Right. How was Dracula resurrected? Was it A? It was a ceremony that the gentleman and young Courtney performed. Or was it B? Courtney was kicked to death by the three gentlemen, and as they fled, Courtney's body transformed into Dracula. Or was it C? When one of those gentlemen drank the blood of Dracula from a goblet and fell to the ground and was transformed into Dracula. I'm not buying that one, but you can. So they're the possible three answers. I know they're a bit of a bleeding mess, aren't they? But never mind, I'll clarify it on the second time round. Alright, question 10. Halfway through, thank God. What was Dracula's purpose when he was sort of resurrected? What was his main reason for being there? Was it A, he needed more disciples? Was it B, he wanted to change his ways? He wanted to be a goody-goody. He wanted to see a dentist about his teeth, you know, that sort of thing. Or was it C, revenge? I know which one I would pick out of that lot. Yeah, the dentist, especially if your teeth are in a bad shape. Right, moving on to question 11. In which order did the gentlemen die? That's the three gentlemen. They all died one at a time, but which order? Who died first? Who died second? Who died first? So you understand what the question means. So was it A, Samuel Paxton, then Jonathan Secker, and then William Hargood? Or was it B, William Hargood died first, then followed by Samuel Paxton, then followed by Jonathan Secker? Or was it C, it was Jonathan Secker first, William Hargood second, and Samuel Paxton third? Right, so I think you understand what I mean by that. Right, question 12. What was the name of William Hargood's daughter? What was the name of William Hargood's daughter? Was it A, Lucy? Was it B, Alice? Was it B, Alice? Or was it C, Mavis? Unlucky for some. This is looking unlucky for me all the time. Question 13. What was the name of the character that Alice was seeing? In other words, which boyfriend was hers in this film? Was it A, Jeremy Secker? Was it B, Paul Paxton? Or was it C, Samuel Paxton? Right, moving on to question 14. Who was the first character to fall victim to Dracula? I repeat that question again. Who was the first victim of Dracula? If that's easy, emphasised a bit more better for you. Was it A, Paul Paxton? Was it B, Lucy Paxton? Or was it C, Alice Hargood? Right, question 15. Where did Dracula reside at? In other words, where was he hiding until, it got dark and he went out doing what he does? Was it A, an abandoned barn? Was it B, a disused church? Or was it C, under the Paxton's house in the cellar? Right, moving on to question 16. We're nearly there. Who was the character left who had not been turned into a vampire and had not come under Dracula's influence, but could take on Dracula at the end? And I think you know what I mean by that. Was it A, Jeremy Secker? Was it B, Paul Paxton? Or was it C, Inspector Cobb? Right, okay, question 17. Who was the character that was floating in the river after Dracula destroyed that person? Was it A, Lucy? Was it B, Alice? Or was it C, Martha? Right, question 18. What defeated Dracula in the end? In other words, how did his demise come about? Was it A, he falls from the altar after losing his balance? Is it B, the church had been re-sanctified and Dracula became disorientated, causing him to fall? Or was it C, light came into the church and disintegrated Dracula, basically, when he punched his hand through the glass, the church window? He should have been found for that, actually. It's a lot of money, Right, so they're the three choices. We're coming to what we call question 20, the final fence, as we race towards the final finish. Here we go. Question 20. Who produced the film? I repeat, who produced the film? Was it A, Michael Carreras? Was it B, Ada Young? Or was it C, Don Sharp? Right, okay, I'll give you a few seconds to get yourselves together as we go on the final stage of this Hammer Horror Quiz. And here we go. Ready, steady, let's play the Hammer Horror Quiz with the answers, featuring the Taste of Blood of Dracula. I keep saying that, don't I? The wrong way. It's Taste the Blood of Dracula, you bloody idiot. Right, okay, I had to go at myself there. Right, question 1. Who directed the film? Who directed the film? Was it A, Anthony Hines? Was it B, Anthony Nelson Keys? Or was it C, John Sasdy? I said it right that time, amazing. Yes, the answer is John Sasdy. That's C. Question 2. When this film went out on release, how many times had Christopher Lee played Dracula? Was it A, 3 times? Was it B, 4 times? Or was it C, 5 times? The answer is B, 4 times. He played Dracula first in 1958 with the horror Dracula. Then he didn't bother with the Brides of Dracula. That went to David Peel, I think. So we didn't see him again until Dracula Prince of Darkness. That's 1966. Then in 1968 he appears again in Dracula's Risen from the Grave, and then suddenly we see him again in Taste the Blood of Dracula. So it's 4 times. Okay, moving on. Question 3. Which actor or actress in this film had appeared with Christopher Lee in the last Hammer film, Dracula film, you could say, the last Hammer Dracula film? And that would have been Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. And you've got 3 choices here. Is it John Carlson? Is it B, Isla Blair? Or is it C, Michael Ripper? The answer is the legendary Michael Ripper, because Michael Ripper has been with Hammer from the start. You know, he's always playing those bit parts, but then he got bigger parts as he went along from the left, because he'd done a lot of stuff, but he was a regular in Hammer, I can assure you, right to the end. He was always in it, and I think you remember him. He played Thomas as the chauffeur in Butterflies. I don't know if you remember that. That was a comedy starring Wendy Craig. But anyway, he's been around, and Christopher Lee speaks very highly of him. You know, when they did those conventions, and Michael Ripper, he used to give him a great sort of send up for him. You know, when he came on, he was very old though. But anyway, that's Michael Ripper. He was in many of the Hammer horror films. Every one of them. I think there's not one he wasn't in. I can't remember. I'll check that one out though. Question 4. This is a 2-part, remember. What was the date when this film was released in the UK? In other words, when did it first hit the cinemas in England? When it was before, because I think it's released here before it is released in America. So here's your choices. Was it on the 5th of May? You have to excuse me, I've got hiccups, so you might find my pausing in my words a little bit. Was it A, the 5th of May 1970? Was it B, the 7th of May 1970? Or was it C, the 9th of May 1970? The answer is B, 7th of May 1970. Right, moving on to question 4, the second part. What was the running time of the film? What was the running time of the film? Was it A, 90 minutes? Was it B, 91 minutes? Or was it C, 92 minutes? The answer is B, 91 minutes. That's usually the norm. Well, they usually give you an hour and a half, but sometimes they can run over budget, so you get an hour and 45. But, you know, it depends on how good the producer and how good are the people working for him. If you've got Christopher Lee, you're going to have a good film, and it's going to be done professionally. So it was always usually around that mark, 1 hour and a half. Sometimes it finished earlier, hour and 25, but hour and a half is usually 90 minutes. But in this case, it ran 1 minute over, so it was 91 minutes. The answer is B. Right, okay, then moving on. That's the end of the 2-part. If you got them all right, give yourself 4 points for the 2. Right, okay, question 5. Which actor played William Hargood, the character in this film? And remember, he's also went on to appear in James Bond as a regular in the Roger Moore era. So I'll give you a hint of which one it is out of these three. Was it A, Desmond Llewellyn? Was it B, Bernard Lee? Or was it C, Jeffrey Keane? The answer is Jeffrey Keane, because Bernard Lee was M. Desmond Llewellyn was Q, I think. I think he was the inventor of the whole thing, and I think Jeffrey Keane was in it. I think he even got to, I think he got a bit more status when he did For Your Eyes Only. You remember Sheena Easton sang the soundtrack to that. That's when he started to come into it more. But I think he was head of the Navy as a character in that film. But he's a familiar face. He's been in lots of stuff. But the answer is Jeffrey Keane. He was the one that was the heading the Three Gentlemen, like a little cult. You know, they were looking for exciting things. You know, in those Victorian age days. You know, because they got sick of the same old format. And as you know, sorry, I told you hiccups again. Ralph Bates, who played young Courtney, offered him a, a life of what's the word I'm looking for? A life of complete and utter ecstasy. That's it. In other words, it will be infinite. The feeling you will get from this will be infinite. What is basically saying is you've got to sell your soul to the devil. Right, I don't think remember the old saying, you may dance with the devil, but it's always to his tune. Always remember that. Okay then, so the answer after that sort of unnecessary essay, the answer was Jeffrey Keane, C. Right, question 666. Which famous comedian played the businessman Weller? At the very beginning of the film, you saw him. He's also the one that owned that pawn shop. You know, the place where you buy brick and brack and stuff. But this time, he had something that was worth more. And obviously, young Courtney wasn't buying, but he had those three gentlemen to buy it for him, so he could perform the ceremony. So, which was that actor? That famous funny man, you know, because he's been in a lot of stuff. You'll know who he is. Right, when I say the name. Was it A, Eric Sykes? Was it B, Roy Kinnear? Or was it C, Ronnie Barker? Well, Ronnie Barker was doing the two Ronnies at the time, so there's no chance of that. And Eric Sykes was doing his own show, so it has to be Roy Kinnear, because Roy Kinnear was doing a lot of stuff. He did, I don't know if he did another Hammer horror, but he did. He was offered a place on Zulu, and he was recommended by Stanley Baker, who's the big star of the film, to play one of the big parts in that. But he got passed over for another actor. But that's, even the power of an actor sometimes falls wayside with the producer's ears. But never mind. But yeah, Roy Kinnear's the answer. His son, Rory Kinnear, is a familiar name you'll recognise as well, because he's an actor as well. That is his son. Sadly, Roy was doing a stunt on a horse. And in 1988, he had a very bad accident. It was probably due to the director trying to cut corners. He was trying to speed things up, and so the horse threw Roy off the horse, and sadly he damaged himself so bad that he couldn't walk, and he went to hospital and he died. Poor Roy. But yeah, they successfully sued them as well in 1991, the family. Because it was true, it was proved that they were cutting corners, and it was unnecessary, Roy's death that day, because it could have been avoided, health and safety and stuff. But obviously, it was all about trying to make a quick buck and stuff like that. That's why these days they have plenty of safety guides in place after that. But yeah, I think Roy would have done some more. Would have been in for some big stuff in the future. If it had got beyond that period, but never mind. All the greats always go early, don't they? And that's why the idiots like myself are always still here. Right, okay then. Anyway, the answer was B, Roy Kinnear. Right, question 7. At the beginning, Roy Kinnear, who plays Weller, was running through the woods and tripped over and fell, and he rolled down this hill. And when he recovered, he heard this big scream, and it was actually Dracula. So my question is this: uh, when he ran through the woods, what did he discover when he recovered and he looked down and he saw something? What did he discover? Was it A, he finds Dracula's belongings in a trunk? Was it B, he watches Dracula die? Or was it C, he finds Dracula's castle? Well, I don't think there's much terror in seeing Dracula's castle falling over his trunk, but I think there's more terror if you see Dracula right in front of you with a bloody crucifix going right through his body, and then he's just disappearing into disintegrating, completely speared right through him. So yeah, it was B. He watches Dracula die. That's how he got hold of the fob watch and the ring and the cape and the dry blood that turned to powder. And he put it in this cylinder, glass cylinder thing, test tube, what they call them. And he put in a box, and that's how it all came into being. They needed that, the three gentlemen and Lord Courtney, for the ceremony at a church that's not sanctified. If it's sanctified, they can't perform it because it has to be in disarray. It has to be, where nobody goes anymore. It's going to be demolition. You'll probably got that reference in 1972 Dracula AD when Peter Cushing was talking about he'll be somewhere probably around the church that's not being used, and he was, because it's not blessed anymore. So that's the same way. Remember that film Brides of Dracula, when the priest was telling the guy that the father of the daughter that died, and he told her, you can't bury her there because I will not bless you there. She must be blessed in a sanctified church on hollow ground or whatever. You probably remember the film. Go and watch it and you'll see what I mean. Just it's at the beginning. It's towards where Peter Cushing comes in, and this priest is telling the father that he can't bury the daughter there, but unfortunately he buried her anyway. All he wanted was his blessing. The priest was never going to give the blessing because he knew that she would rise. She's the undead. Anyway, enough of that. Right, moving on swiftly, as I say. Yeah, the answer to the other one, question 7, was he watches Dracula die. Okay, then, we're moving on to question 8. I think it's question 8. Yeah, question 8. Right, here we go. I'm going to move a bit quicker now, so you're going to have to keep up. What was the character played by Ralph Bates called? I'll repeat that again. What was the name of the character that was played by Ralph Bates, who was disowned by his family for practicing the black arts? Was it A, Lord Crowley? Was it B, Lord Marley? Or was it C, Lord Courtly? And you probably have worked it out that I actually mentioned his name already, so you obviously were ready for that answer. Yeah, you already gave it away a bit there. That's what happens when you ramble on like an idiot like myself. Okay then, so the answer is C, Lord Courtly. Right, question 9. How was Dracula resurrected? In other words, how was he brought back to life? Was it A, it was a ceremony that the gentleman and Courtney performed? Or was it B, Courtney was kicked to death by the three gentlemen, and as they fled, Courtney's body got transformed into Dracula? Or was it C, when one of the gentlemen drank the blood of Dracula, that's the when they added some of this solution into the powdered red and it started to froth up, type of thing, and he fell to the ground after drinking it and transformed into Dracula? The answer is no, it's not that one. It's B, Courtney was kicked to death by the three gentlemen as they fled from the scene, because he died. Apparently he died. It happened when he drank this blood of Dracula, and it tasted goddamn awful, and I'm not surprised they told him to drink that. Why don't you drink the filthy muck, so he drank it, and he was yelping for air. It must have been red mercury he was drinking, for God's sake. But anyway, he dies, and Dracula is transformed through his servant. And the idea of the story was that the plot was revenge Oh dear, I've given it away. I'm really sorry about that, but I thought I'd get to that point. But anyway, never mind. I don't think it's going to make a difference to the outcome of the whole thing. So anyway, let's move on. So the answer was B. Courtney was kicked to death by three gentlemen as they fled. As they fled, Courtney's body transformed into Dracula. Right, question 10. What was Dracula's purpose for being there? Was it A, he needed more disciples? Was it B, he wanted to change his ways, like go to the dentist and get his teeth fixed? Or was it C, revenge? The answer is C, revenge, because when the three gentlemen kicked his servant to death, he wanted revenge. So basically that is the gist of the whole story, really. Once the revenge was over, in my opinion, I felt that the story had no legs anymore, and I just felt that it was any moment that Dracula's going to sort of go into his usual dying swan act, dramatically. Something was going to impale him or something. Anyway, but it was revenge. After that, there was no meaning to it. But anyway, moving on to question 11. In which order did the gentleman die? In other words, which order did the gentleman die? Was it A, Samuel Paxton first, Jonathan Secker second, and William Hargood third? Or was it B, William Hargood first, Samuel Paxton second, and Jonathan Secker third? Or was it C, Jonathan Secker first, William Hargood second, and Samuel Paxton third? The answer is B. William Hargood, played by Jeffrey Keane, went first. He was bludgeoned by his own daughter, who was under the influence of Count Dracula. He was about to bite her neck, and he comes out in a drunken rage, ready to give her a good beating for disobeying him and going to the party, that sort of thing. Second was Samuel Paxton. That's the moment where his daughter, he finds out is a vampire, and he starts stotting around too much and mocking about. By the time he gets the stake up, she opens her eyes, and he throws himself back, and it's the end really, because then Dracula appears, and obviously the other girl appears, and he's at it, and he gets staked right through the heart. And the last one, Jonathan Secker, his son gets bitten by his girlfriend, and then he gets, I think his son throws a stake right through his heart or something like that, and then they lock him up for murder. But he's a bleeding vampire, let's face it. So the saga continues, as they say. And the person that played that was Martin Jarvis. You remember him from Doctor Who? He was in he was in the third one. It's about where you vote for somebody who's a president, and he sits in the electric chair, and they all press the buttons, and if they disagree, he gets loads of voltages. I'm trying to think. Vengeance on Varos. That's it. It's where it's like a TV sort of jury type of thing. We all make our decision whether he's going to survive or he dies, and then we replace him with somebody else. But it was a great story, that Vengeance of Varos. That was Martin Jarvis playing the president. Martin Jarvis was in this film. He played the son of John Carlson, who played Jonathan Secker. Okay then, enough of that information. So the answer was B, William Hargood first, Samuel Paxton second, Jonathan Secker third. Just before I mention this, Peter Sellers played Samuel Paxton. He went on to do Last of Summer Wine. The information's a bit irrelevant, but I thought I'd mention it because you probably knew that anyway. Right, moving on to question 12. What was the name of William Hargood's daughter? What was the name of William Hargood's daughter? Was it A, Lucy? Was it B, Alice? Or was it C, Mavis? The answer is B, Alice. Right, moving on to question 13. What was the name of the character that Alice was seeing? What was her boyfriend called, in other words? Was it A, Jeremy Secker? Was it B, Paul Paxton? Or was it C, Samuel Paxton? The answer is B, Paul Paxton, because Samuel Paxton was Paul's dad, so it would have looked a bit dodgy in them days. It even looks dodgy now, an older man, that age gap. So anyway, there you go. Question 14. So the answer was B, Paul Paxton. Question 14. Who was the first character to fall victim to Dracula? Now, this is a bit of a sort of confusion one. you could say when you look at it, because I'll let you know in a minute. But the answer that was to be is the answer is Lucy Paxton. The reason being she became a vampire, where only Alice was under influence. She never got bitten, and she survived out of the lot of them because with Dracula dead, she was no under his control anymore. So I would have said Lucy Paxton because she was the first victim that became a vampire of played by Isla Blair. You probably know her as well. And Lucy Paxton was bitten. Well, she was a victim of Dracula. Put it that way. So Alice Hargood. Now she is one of the famous. She was in Satan's Claw, if you remember her. Linda Hayden. You remember her, Linda Hayden? She was in Satan's Claw. She's done a few bits and pieces, so you remember her. She's got blonde hair, long blonde hair. In Satan's Claw, she was she really was a nutter. She was terrifying. She played this person that convinced everybody that that they needed a sacrifice. And poor old, you remember Zoe from Doctor Who, Wendy Padbury? She was the victim in that. Anyway, I won't say anymore because it's not about that. That was called the Satan's Claw or something. Right, okay. Anyway, getting back to the point, the answer was Lucy Paxton. Right, question 15. We're nearly there. Where did Dracula reside at? In other words, where was his hiding place? Was it A, an abandoned barn? Was it B, a disused church? Or was it C, under the Paxton's house in the cellar? No, it was a disused church. Okay then, we're nearly getting there to the end, and we're moving on to question 16. Here we go. Who was the character left who had not been turned into a vampire and not come under Dracula's influence and ended up taking on Dracula with the information he was given by, Jonathan Secker, because he was killed by his son. So he managed to give him information before this happened, and so he was armed with knowledge to fight Dracula. Was it A, Jeremy Secker? Can't be, I've just mentioned him, so you can discount him. Was it B, Paul Paxton? Possibility. Or was it C, Inspector Cobb? Well, as inspectors go, he gives police a bad name. He did bugger all, and he wouldn't believe, he's meant to be a bloody policeman, for God's sake. But that was Michael Ripper, by the way. Brilliant actor, the one I said about Christopher Lee, giving him a great send-up every time he came to the conventions, because he was virtually in every horror film you could ever mention, in the 50s and 60s and 70s. He was in them all. Anyway, so the answer is Paul Paxton, played by Anthony Codburn, I think. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Question 17. Who was the character that was floating in the river after Dracula destroyed that person? Was it A, Lucy? Was it B, Alice? Was it C, Martha? Well, it's not Martha because she was the mother. It wasn't Alice because you know what, Alice, she survived at the end of it. It has to be Lucy because obviously she wanted to please Dracula. I want to follow you and all that, and Dracula got bored of her or something. His usefulness was over, so he drained her body completely and then threw her in the river. That's the art of suggestion for you. You have to make your own mind up how it ended like that, but never mind. So the answer was A, Lucy. Right, question 18. What defeated Dracula in the end? In other words, how did Dracula sort of lose, as he always does in the end? Was it A, he falls from the altar after losing his balance? Was it B, the church had been re-sanctified and Dracula became disorientated, causing him to fall? Or was it C, when he smashed through the church window, light came through into the church and disintegrated Dracula? Right, the answer is obviously B, the church had been re-sanctified and Dracula became disorientated, causing him to fall and then turn into dust as usual when he died. So the answer is B. Right, question 19. We're down to the last two, and I think you'll be relieved to hear that I'm nearly finished. Right, here we go. Before Dracula fell, what did he see when he smashed the church window? I'll repeat that again. That was the bit I was just talking about earlier. Before Dracula fell, what did he see when he smashed the church window? Was it A, he had a flashback to what he used to be? Was it B, he started to hear the prayers in Latin? Or was it C, he saw a vision on how he was to die? The answer is B. He started to hear the prayers said in Latin, and it sort of disorientated him because obviously there were prayers of God. So him being a representative of the devil, you know. So basically, he sort of went dizzy and then just lost his balance and then went over the side because he saw the church was completely in royal blue, you know, and you had the priest doing that Latin bit. What a poor impression of someone doing Latin, eh? Never mind, I think you got the gist. Anyway, we're down to the last question here, so I'll be brief. And it's a nice easy one. Who produced the film? Who produced the film? Was it A, Michael Carreras? Was it B, Ada Young? Or was it C, Don Sharp? I'll repeat that one again before we finish the whole thing. Who produced the film? Was it A, Michael Carreras? Was it B, Ada Young? Or was it C, Don Sharp? The answer is Ada Young. Right, that is it. Thank God for that. It was a bit of a long one again, wasn't it? I'm trying to shorten these videos so it makes it a lot more easy. I don't want to put in any more jokes and stuff. Even I can't stand my sort of performance sometimes. I might have to drop something, and I hear you clearly. You want me to drop the singing, don't you? But I think that's a good one to get you on the move to get out of the room. Anyway, never mind all that. So, right, that just leaves me to say, thank God that is it, as you would say to me. And that is the end of tonight's quiz. I'll be back at the same time tomorrow night on this channel with the Doctor Who quiz featuring Planet of Giants. So this will be on here as well. This actual one I've just made now will be on this YouTube channel, and of course it will also be on my horror group on Facebook. So all that remains for me to say is sleep tight, and I will see you tomorrow night. Bye for now.